because I've got a hard stop at 2 because I've got a potential recruit that I have to interview for the admissions office. So, all right, we can get going.
Yes, coach.
All right, so we're back, right? We're back. So kind of dovetailing off of the talk that I did last time, which was primarily about how to play center. When you're playing from the guard and tackle position. And so what I tried to do was go through some things that are very general, just about, talk more about pass protection today, because I think that's where a lot of the differences are. If we get to cut blocking, I have some things on cut blocking because I know that was of interest, and we can certainly come back and do another session on run blocking. But pass blocking, I think is where we see, like I said, some generalities and then some very specific things that are specific to guards and tackles. And hopefully I'll be able to go over those a little bit and give you some drills and some things that I've kind of felt were kind of essential to those two positions in getting the guys to be successful. So, my first slide here is two guys that I've been lucky enough to have personal contact with. I'm not name dropping here, but these are guys that I've gotten to know personally. Coach Alexander was with, I know he's been over to Germany, but he's been with the Jets, the Bengals, and with the Cowboys. He's retired now and just doing consulting and coaching and doing some pro football focused stuff. But I've known Paul forever, and did some lineman camps with him, and really learned a lot from him. I think he really understands, how to pass protect, and he really understands, like, the things that I learned from him were, trust your eyes. What you see is how the game is actually played, as opposed to what you learned in a book or what you saw on some video. Like, if you watch how offensive linemen move and play, you'll learn the differences on what was just kind of, dogma for so long that really doesn't apply to the game. And then you can kind of see how things work, so you can actually teach them how to do the stuff that's going to make them successful. And then Dante, was such a legend with the Patriots, and he's such a kind guy, and he came up and did a clinic for my staff once. And his thing with Dante is, if you ever watch him coach, here's a guy that's been at the top level of football, regarded as maybe one of the great line coaches of all time. And his teaching is so simple, and he paints such great pictures with his words that, I took that from him in terms of coaching, like having certain things that you say to the guy really kind of make an impression in their mind. And then don't make it too complicated, because we can make this position be way overcomplicated, and then we kind of get lost in being paralyzed by the analysis of it all. So what I've tried to do is really kind of simplify things, get it down to the essential things that I think work, because we're all limited by time. And I don't want to waste time on doing silly drills that don't translate. So I want to teach them the things that are going to help them be successful, do the drills that are going to help them do that, and then get repetitions on that so that they can kind of master that. So I'm going to go fast, because, like I said, I got a hard stop at 2 and I want to get as much of this in, but I'm going to go fast. A lot of this stuff is going to be pretty easy for guys because they already understand it. The first thing is you got to have a great stance. Offensive line stances can look very, very different, but they're a skill. So we want to make sure that the guys are working on their stance, and getting it into a functional positioning, functional postures, so they can move in all directions, and they can do that. So it's a skill, just like the blocking that they're going to do out of it. And the thing that we need to remember is that quality stances allow for either development of power, which is primarily in the run game, or the absorption and transfer of force, which is kind of like pass protection, right? So those are kind of the two things that are very different, but the stance has to be able to allow you to do both those things. So the building blocks of a great stance, and I know that, this is a lot of that, OLP stuff, but that back leg is like a kickstand, and I do believe that you create 345s just like everybody talks about, but that back leg is like a kickstand, and it provides you a good solid base. Here's a picture from about, oh boy, this has got to be 10 years ago at least, of the line that I had when I was the head coach at Endicott College, and I thought it was pretty good because it had a really good example of 64. There was a good example of kind of what we're looking for from a tackle and a 2-point. And then you can see 72, what I kind of be looking for in a guard and a 3-point. And you see the common thing with the back leg. The foot is out at the 45, the knee is inside the ankle, the hip is inside the knee. And so, that creates that 345s that people always talk about. You can see it on both. All cleats are in the ground. We're not up on our toes, and we're creating a good solid base to kind of move in any direction. Here's a fuzzy picture, but I try to zoom in on the film to kind of show it. Here was a kid that had never played offensive line until that year. We made him a tackle, and you can see his back leg is a really good example of that kickstand where he's got his toe out at 45, the knee is inside the ankle, and the hip is inside the knee, and it kind of creates a nice base. Hips are square to the line of scrimmage. Obviously, we don't want to be tilted out or tilted in. We want it to be, a nice like I said, barbell in the hips so that it's square to the line of scrimmage and balanced. And then hands. I think on a 3-point stance, the thing that I tell guys is that I want them to get all 5 fingertips into the ground. And if you can't get your thumb on the ground, you're not bending at the knees and the ankles enough. You want to lower yourself and hinge down so you can get all the hands in the ground on a 3-point stance. If you can't do it, they probably can operate better out of a 2-point stance. Sometimes the tall guys might have a problem, or the heavy guys with a big belly might have a problem doing that. Get them into a position with their legs where they can move, and then determine what stance you want to use. The offhand, do whatever you want. I tell the guys to try to hug the outside of the knee, but at the very least, you can see where this guy at the bottom here, the center, has his kind of hand poised to strike. He's resting his probably forearm and wrist area on his knee, and it's ready to strike. All right. So in a 2-point stance, talk to the guys about place their hands and their wrists lightly on their knees, so there's no weight supported. Your hands are loose and ready to strike, and your elbows are tucked close to the ribs. So I try to tell the guys, it's like if I took a drill and I drilled a screw through your elbow into your ribs, that's what I want. I kind of want that in there as tight as it can be. Sometimes if they don't do that, they'll tend to flare their elbows, which puts a lot of pressure into the shoulders, and it's not good for a blocking surface. So just hands. The spine, we talk about having a flat or a neutral back. I think this is a good picture right here. I'd say like snake the spine, because like a snake getting ready to strike, that's the spine kind of angle that we want, is that it's ready to strike. So it's not really flat, but we kind of tell them the chest goes forward, the butt goes back, and we get that good kind of low reverse C in the lower back. And that creates a good angle there. I think that's a pretty good picture of it. When we talk to them about how to set up in their stance, we want them to be able to have a routine that they get into so that they can be in that solid stance every single time. If they're not in a good stance every single time, you're going to get some good blocks and some bad blocks. We want to keep it consistent. So there's kind of a checklist for them to kind of get into it. And it's a better picture here. Here's a guy at the Senior Bowl a couple of years ago, getting into his stance. And I think this is kind of a great example. He kind of sets his feet. He kind of gets his angles all set, has his hands all set. He looks a little bit like a robot. But these are different clips, and he gets it all set so he's ready to go, and then he's ready to fire off and do his thing. So again, all different clips, but the same procedure and setup, I think, leads to a good start to any play. All right, then we talk to the guys about splits and levels. We know this. This is kind of how we teach the guys to kind of use splits and levels to their advantage as a pass protector, where, if the guard's getting a real wide 3, maybe the tackle wants to snug down a little bit, or the guard wants to move out to kind of reduce the gap. But in general, the bigger thing is levels, and I think that anytime that we talk about levels, we're talking about being a normal or base level, which is where your hands are on the center's toes, an off the ball alignment where the hands are on the center's heels. And then one that we probably wouldn't use much is that on the ball alignment in pass protection. There's more in short yardage. But, this would be kind of where I would tell the guys we want to start, is that we want to get as far off the ball as we can. And then we kind of want to work from that position. That gains us an advantage over the defensive lineman, in my opinion, especially at the guard positions where, you can still have guys that are going to try to crowd the ball a little bit. And if you're crowding the ball and they're crowding the ball, you're not giving yourself a chance. If we get off the ball, we can maybe get those guys to get through their first move and into their second move, which 9 times out of 10 is a bull rush. So I would tell the guys, move off and set. And then that guy was thinking, well, I'm going to crowd up here and I'm going to swim him, or I'm going to crowd up here and I'm going to rip him. And when they can't do that after the first move, they'll go into a bull rush more often than not. So we try to kind of dictate to the defense what we want them to do. And I'll talk about that more as we kind of go along is creating a way for us to define the rusher. But we generally would talk about being off the ball and pass protection. Okay, so pass protection. Let's talk about positions. So when I was growing up in the game, they had moved from, this is how old I am now, right? So when I first learned to pass protect, I learned to pass protect with my forearms because we couldn't extend our hands. All right, hand blocking wasn't a thing yet. So when I got to college and we ended up being able to extend our hands, a lot of the conversation about that, there hadn't been a lot of practice in it. And so, we were told, you held your hands up right in front of your face and you were ramrod straight up and down with your back. It was very, very straight, and sit in a chair. And it was the most uncomfortable thing in the world. And then you kind of look at it and you go, we're taking all the athleticism out of our least athletic guys. We have to be able to find a way to do this better. So again, going back to what Paul Alexander would say with, training your eyes to watch the game, these are the things that I kind of believe in now. I don't think that weight is heavier on the inside light. We used to say, 70% on the inside foot and 30% on the outside foot. Well, I think it's got to be 50-50. If you've got too much weight one way or the other, you're either going to transfer too much weight, or you're going to be too heavy on one side and you're not going to be efficient. So, I tell the guys, hey, it's 50-50 so that you can move with efficiency. We tell the guys, in terms of, their posture and their pad level, I talk more about dragging your tail, like dropping your tail down to the ground, like an alligator dragging his tail behind him, like drop your tail. That's how you're going to get lower, not by lowering your shoulder pads. So we want to I tell them, hey, you're going to be low and then play lower. And if you can kind of think of dropping your eyes down and your tail down, that'll help with your posture and your pad level. And then your hands are in front and they're relaxed and they're low, but they're ready to strike, but they're relaxed and they're low. So they've got some snap in there. Because if you think of like a boxer, doesn't clench his fists and his wrists and become real tense, because that goes right into his elbows. He's got kind of loose hands and then he snaps jabs. All right. So we kind of want to have that idea of being able to kind of have our hands in front, relaxed and low. One of my friends gave me a great coaching cue. He said it's the Xbox position. Like where the hands are is kind of where the kids play the Xbox, right? They kind of hold them down low and they play Xbox, right? It's kind of that idea. Or if like you're a basketball guy, it's like you're getting ready to throw a bounce pass. That's about the level that you want your hands to be. So they're kind of down lower gut level. But I think that's a really important thing, and it shows up. Look at as much film as you want, it shows up. I believe that you should have a slight forward tilt, not leaning forward, but having a slight forward tilt, so that when you do make contact with the defender, if he hits you in the chest, you don't get knocked over backwards, you get knocked up to a strong posture. And then quiet feet. Dante Scarnecchia told them to cut grass with their feet, nice and low to the ground. We don't want those big, loud kicks. We want it to be the best linemen. You don't even hear them. They just kind of get out there, and they have nice light feet. So cut grass with the feet, close to the ground, keeping it nice and quiet. But that is, to me, a best pass pro position for anybody. Now, one thing, and I tell this to tackles more than anybody. It could be a guard in some situations, but mostly it's with tackles, because tackles have to deal with guys that are wider. I tell guys to look at the rusher. Don't sit there and think, well, I got to keep my eyes straight ahead so I don't give away the play. Well, you're not giving away the play. If you just kind of turn your head, now you've got both eyes being able to see the defender. If you've got your eyes straight ahead and that guy's kind of wide, you're dealing with peripheral vision and you're not allowing yourself to see the entire rusher. Turn your head and look at the rusher. He knows you're going to block him. You know you're going to block him. Give yourself every advantage you can. And then, like I said, low hands, which I talked about, but also staggered hands. The hands don't have to come with each other, because you are going to sometimes use your hands independently, especially at tackle. So we're never going to put our hands up in front of our chest with our thumbs together and all that other stuff. I've gotten away from that. I think of staggering my hands the way I stagger my feet. So if my kick foot, or my, that kick foot on the outside, that hand's going to be probably down and my inside hand is going to be up. If the defender crossed my face, I may have to switch my hands, to get the other hand going. And it's just kind of like, staggering your hands like you stagger your feet. So it's kind of mirroring. Again, watch the game, see what you see what helps your guys. But I think this is kind of a true fact, right? So here's just a picture of like a guy getting set. Now I think he's turned a little bit too much. His hips are a little bit open. But I thought this was kind of a good example of, you can kind of see the hands are low and they're staggered. And then as he kicks out there, watch his hands. Watch his hands. Hands are staggered and low. They're not, he's doing battle with them. It's not setting back there like this and thinking you're going to throw two hands onto a defender all the time. That happens actually pretty rarely. So setting in general. All right. So when we talk about setting, we're talking about covering the defender to get between him and the quarterback. So at the very least, right, if you did nothing else, if you can set to cover the defender, you have a chance of getting run over slowly and getting the ball off. All right. And how much of the defender we cover is based on a lot of things. What's the protection? Where's the help? Can I define his escape plan to make him go inside or outside based on what I want him to do? But we kind of talk to the guys in terms of like, as they're setting or covering, we talk to them about the pass set angles that they would use. So, for the most part, tackles kind of live in, angle B, that 45-degree angle set. Tackles kind of live in that world more often than not. Guards tend to live in an angle A world. All right. It's a little flatter, probably about 30 degrees. And if I had to look at, all the pass sets that I've seen with my guys or with other teams, I'd say that's probably pretty true. That because guards are going to operate a little bit different than tackles. But do we teach other things? Sure. We're not going to talk about it today, but jump sets are a great change up against certain types of rushers. That angle C set, that if you watch Joe Thomas is a master of the C set. Like he'll set back almost vertically. And then the power set is used, when a defender's aligned inside you. So, as I talk to the guys, I'm going to be like, hey, you want to set on a B or you want to set on an A. It's just like, that's an A set, that's a B set. That kind of lets the guys know. We'd even call the power set a P set if we want to call it that. Whatever you want to call it, those are just the angles that we kind of work on. In general, like I said, if I had to boil it down, I teach tackles to go at the B at 45. I teach guards to go at the A at 30, just kind of as a general thing on all pass protection. So continuing with setting. So this is kind of the process, right? We always think feet and then hands, right? If we chop their arms off and we can at least get their feet to where they're supposed to be, they'll get run over slowly and they'll get in the way. Then we'll start talking about how to place their hands. If a defender's aligned to the inside of us, so this is whether I'm a guard or a tackle, and that's my guy, I'm talking about man protection, right? If my guy is aligned inside me, we have to get nose to nose. Okay. Again, this is going to be more with guards and traditional protections, but we need to get nose to nose. I want to sit right down the middle of the man, which is contradictory to what some people think. But I think you got to get down there and get nose to nose. If a defender's aligned head up, it's kind of like we have him where we want him, nose to nose, but we need to be inside conscious. And then in general, guards, if a defender's aligned outside you, so like a 3 technique, we want to set him nose to nose. That's going to be really different from what a lot of people think, because I've heard, well, if he's outside, I just go knee to crotch. Well, I'll show you why I think that's a thing with a guard to set nose to nose. But we set nose to nose on a traditional 3 tech. If it's a thin 3 tech where he's real wide, we might set it different. But I'm just talking a traditional 3 technique on my guard. I'm going to set over so I can cover him up nose to nose, full body against full body. All right, tackles with defenders to the outside, we set inside out. All right, our outside knee to his midline or knee to crotch. We do that because in general, and I'll show you about with guards, guards have more protection inside. Tackles have to play from their outside shoulder to the sideline. So we go knee to crotch because we're going to get speed rushes and contain rushes. It's different. All right, so if a defender is inside of us, we're going to post or power set. If a defender is head up on us, we're going to reset, and I'll tell you what that is. And then if a defender is outside us, we're going to drive or kick set, depending on whatever your terminology is, but we're going to kick out at the 45. Now, when we talk about a reset, when guys get head up on us, we're anticipating that there's going to be some sort of movement, right? That we just don't see that many defenses where guys are going to line up straight up head up and play you straight up head up. It just doesn't happen. The percentages are so low, we don't spend a lot of time on it. But if we are seeing a guy play head up, maybe a tackle has got a guy head up on him, and if that's his guy, we would tell him he's got to reset his feet. And so it's being inside conscious. So a reset is a little bit different, so that if I'm a right tackle, well, maybe I can just draw this up. Hold on. Let me try doing this. I'll just see if my little fancy pen thing here works. So if we think of it in terms of this, so if this is the tackle and this is the defensive lineman that's rushing him, right? And the ball, we'll do the left tackle, and the ball's in here. We would tell him, if this guy's head up, we want him to reset. And so all that is we tell him to take his inside foot and just drop it back a little bit, just a quick reset of the inside foot that makes him inside conscious, so he can be prepared for any inside move. All right. And then the second foot just kicks. And so we kind of stay in the same place. We're not going straight back, but we're going to let this guy kind of determine where he's going, and then we'll play him. So we want to get back a little bit so that if this guy did go to the inside, we could get in front of him. All right. If we just kept our feet in the same spot and this guy goes, we're never going to get him. So we would say reset. Inside foot goes back about 6 inches. Outside foot kicks into the ground and creates a base. And then we can react. If he goes outside, now we can continue to kick. All right. If he goes inside, we can slide over and get in front of him. So I hope that that's what we would call a reset. All right. And that's a little bit different. The rest of the stuff is pretty traditional that you're all probably familiar with, but the reset is a little bit different when we're specifically head up in a man-to-man situation on the man side of a protection. All right. Because if a guy's head up on you and you're on the zone side of a protection, you're probably working out to a wider rusher, and the guard's going to come out and help the tackle. But if you're man-to-man and that's your guy, that's how we would teach a head-up defender. We would reset our feet and then make sure that we're getting back off we've already said we're going to be off the ball. Now it's going to get us another 6 inches back, and then we're able to react either inside or outside based on the movement of the defender. I hope that makes sense. Let's go back to the presentation. All right, so that's kind of where we're at with like sets by alignment. But then if we talk about things like this, is a big conversation that we always have, is like the spot. I think it's important that offensive linemen know where the spot is. So the spot is the junction point between the outside foot of the rusher and the back foot of the quarterback at the end of his drop. So this is why it's important. I would always tell the offensive coordinators, or when I've been an offensive coordinator, turn the offensive line around and let them see the quarterback drop and where his back foot lands. So if he's in the shotgun and he's taking a 3-step drop in the shotgun, we want to see how deep that quarterback is actually going to get, because that's going to impact how our guys are going to protect. So if you look at this picture, right, here's just a lineup from the back shot, so you can kind of see. I'm guessing that the quarterback is going to be back where that X is when he finishes his drop. And then I drew it from the back foot, so the foot that is set back to that point, I draw a straight line. Well, you can see that here you've got guys that it's not that far. Look, this guy's foot is right on the line. This guy's foot's right on the line. So I mean, if we look at it from that standpoint, they're already there. So you can, I think a lot of times tackles freak out because they see how wide these guys are, and they think, boy, I got to get out there. And then they end up taking extra kicks they don't take, or bigger kicks than they need. And that puts them into a bad position, because that takes energy. And if your weight gets out of kilter, you're really in trouble. So we tell the guys, realize how far you don't have to go. That 2 quick kicks will get you right on the spot. You'll have it right down the middle of your base, and you're going to be able to block those guys. Don't freak out when they get wide. It's wasted energy. All right. Here it is from a guard perspective. And this was a great shot, because now we've got what I would refer to as a I call this a thick. This is a thick 3 technique, and this is a thin 3 technique, or 4-eye, where he's further away. In general, you can see if I draw that line, it's really close to the quarterback. He only has to take 1 kick to probably get this guy nose to nose, right? Here, he might have to take 2 to get to the spot, because that guy's a little wider. If he was to rush that line, we'd have to maybe take a little bit more. But you can see how close we are to the junction points. This guy's already on the junction point. He takes 1 kick, he's nose to nose. You know, this guy might have to take a little bit more. Maybe he gets it on one, but you can see kind of those things that if it's thick or thin, you just got to judge how many kicks you're going to need. Generally, if they're pretty heavy on you, it's one. If they're off you, it's two. I never teach guys to take more than 2 kicks before making a decision. So we spend a lot of time on 2 kicks. All right, so hands. All right, now this is the thing that I got from Paul, and maybe some of you guys have seen this. That if you set and you put your outside hand down the middle of an outside rusher, it's death. You're done. The angle to the quarterback is going to be that much greater. He can turn the offensive lineman real fast and get to the quarterback. So really, you know, if you look at it here, I got the actual film, right? The guy kicks out there, puts his hand in the middle, gets it knocked down, rushes around, and he's hitting the quarterback. So, you know, I talk to the guys a lot about, you know, you got to take 2 kick slides to the spot as square as you can. All right. And then we have to think about where we're going to place our hands. Well, to me, placing your hands is kind of like, you know, Paul calls it the logo, right? The logo spot. You know, where the Nike logo is, or the bowl game, and a Big Ten logo there. Like, that's where we want our outside hand to go. All right. So where the rusher is, if he's rushing you outside, we want to put our outside hand, we want to get it on that logo spot on his outside shoulder. Okay. The other hand would kind of fit to his ribs on the inside. So, you know, as we talk about it, it's high hand to the logo and then low hand to the ribs. And so, like, this would be high hand, low hand, right? Like, that's, you can see the hands here, kind of where we want to put that, where, you know, we've got our high hand here, and then we got our low hand here. And that's going to allow us to control the defender. If the defender rushed inside, I would have high hand on the inside logo spot, outside hand on the hip or the ribs. So it kind of just depends on where he's rushing, inside you or outside you. So here's kind of a little drill, right, of kids working on high hand, low hand. There's a high school team, but you can watch this guy. He's going to set out and then high hand, low hand. You can see he's on the outside. Now the defender comes in, high hand, low hand. Now, obviously, he's clawing on top. We want him to kind of put it in the spot, but that gives you an idea of kind of that high hand, low hand. Now, that can be done 2 hands at a time. It can be done independently, but I think that, you know, when you punch somebody straight in the chest, that only happens in certain situations. Most of the time, we're trying to control the defender, and that gives us the best opportunity to control the defender. All right, so as we get into it, let's talk about reads. So now, this is kind of general, okay, but it's still kind of a little bit more specific, especially the shoulder read, the tackles. But in general, tackles and guards handle the shoulder read a little bit differently. So a shoulder read to me is when you've got a wide rusher, that's like 2 kicks off you, right? And as we're taking our 2 kicks, we're putting our eyes on that defender's shoulders. If they remain square and moving upfield, I call that a shoulder read. All right, so that's telling me he's going to try to beat me with speed. I've gotten to my 2 kicks, and he's still got that shoulder angle where he's working up the field. That's going to tell me what to do. All right. In general, with tackles, we tell them we want to use solid hands on that. And this is kind of like one of those little kind of the secret sauce kind of stuff, that when we see the guy with his shoulders square after we've taken 2 kicks, then we're going to take 1 more kick, and we're going to use what I call the bear paw. Now, a bear paw is kind of the idea of having solid hands, right? Having solid hands that we want to use the entire surface of our hand and be like a big grizzly bear taking a swipe at something. That's the idea, that we want to have our outside hand. We're going to kind of kick back, and to adjust for the speed, we're going to kind of bring our hand down and away and then try to catch him on the outside. So it's almost like a clothesline, kind of move in pro wrestling. But I got some video of it so you can understand a little bit better. So here, this would be like a shoulder read, right? The kid's taking 2 kicks and he's trying to decide what he's going to do. He sees that he's continuing up the field. So he goes 1 more kick and he works to get his outside hand over onto that logo spot. Okay, so I think everybody can see that. Okay, his kick continues too. See, that's the thing, is like, a lot of times what tackles will do, they take 2 kicks, they make the read, they throw their hands and they spin. They don't continue to kick. I think this was a pretty good example of the drill, where he's just kind of working on making the read. Watch his feet. He's going to kick twice, and then he's going to kick 2 more times. Really, it's the 3rd kick, 1 more kick bear paw, kick a fourth time. And if he keeps working him along that line, he can push him nice and flat to the outside, and that expands that pocket protection. All right, we want to tackle one to expand it. I'll show you that in a minute. But so, so this is, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna draw this up. So I call this the offside rush drill. All right, and I think it's really important. This is kind of a key thing that I think is really important, is that, we teach these guys how to do all this stuff, but at the end of the day, things go wrong. There's a lot more times than things are going to go wrong than they're going to go right. And so this is kind of how I would teach it. In that last drill, you're seeing where he's kicking and then making contact. What I would do is I'd put the guy like he's already taken 2 kicks. So let's draw this out. Let's say this is the tackle. All right, and let's say that he's already, from the line of scrimmage here, let's say he's taken 2 kicks and he's gotten to this point. Okay. Then you got your outside rusher. What I would do then is I take the rusher and I put him kind of in a bad position for the tackle. So let's just draw kind of here where that guy's almost, we're kind of almost like hip to hip here, where this guy's shoulders are still square. He's still going to try to rush up the field. All right. We want to make sure that we're getting here like we're already kicked, so that we got him already in that position. And then on the defensive lineman's movement, we tell this guy, take one more kick and throw the bear claw. All right. And then he'll take another kick to finish. But it's this thing is that we've already kind of put him in a pre-kicked position, and then we're going to put him in a bad spot. I've just gotten beat up the field. The guy's already kind of even with me, just about even with me. How am I going to get back in front of him? Well, I'm going to kick one more time to get myself in front of him, to get knee to crotch. And I'm going to swing that bear claw in there and get it on the logo spot. And then I'll follow with my inside hand and one more and another kick. So it's a drill that we do, and we do it with guards too. But it's a way for us to kind of teach the guys, when you're beat, how do you get back into a position of leverage? So this is like a drill that I do this drill with my young linemen almost more than anything, because they're going to screw up more than anybody. I want to teach them that when it goes wrong, I have an idea on how to fix it. It lowers their anxiety level. And they know, hey, if I get in a bad spot, at least I have a tool that I can pull out of my toolbox to use. So here's the film. So this is a guy that was a pretty young player for me. I think he was maybe a sophomore in this game. But it's a good example of kind of what it looks like. One more kick when you bear claw. I'll see if I can get it right down to the thing. So he's going to take 2 kicks. 1, 2. All right, he's almost into the 3rd kick there. Let's move that back a little. All right, there's the 2nd kick in the ground. He's determined, because he knows how this guy's going to rush, he's going back to the outside. So he's going to take one more kick. So watch his foot here. He's going to do one more kick. There's the 3rd kick in the ground, and he's going to bear claw. So watch his hand. He's going to kick, and then you see it kind of comes almost out in a circle, because he's targeting that outside shoulder point, that outside logo spot. Boom. And then that inside hand's going to go in there. It's not perfect, but he's learned how to do it. I'm going to go 1, 2, one more kick, bear claw, and then I want to push him as wide as I can. All right. He still needed to get in the weight room a little bit, but that's a pretty good job by that kid. All right, here he is again. This kid was a very good pass rusher. So let's watch him again. 1, 2. He's getting 2 turned, but watch the bear claw. Watch his outside arm kind of circle in to get that spot, and then he can kind of transition to the other hand. But it's just that act of kind of pulling that outside hand into a tight circle and throwing it to get that shoulder point. You see how he's fighting to get that shoulder point. Okay. All right. The second thing would be when a rusher gets a chest read. So this is like what I said, is when they don't get their first move, or maybe this is like an outside rusher is looking to kind of set up so that he can drill the guy right in the chest with a power move, a bull rush. You see it a lot by the guards on the inside. We teach the guys to hop. All right, so we're going to get hop when we feel that pressure in our chest. So if the defender ever turns his chest to us and gives us the chest, we're going to hit him with 2 hands in the chest. It's like that one time that we really want to drill the guy, try to bust him and bust his lungs. I tell the guy, try to go in there and grab his lungs right in his chest, and then hop. And so you can see, the guy from the Redskins here watching the football team just kind of flopping back. Here's how we kind of drill it. We got bar in there to kind of keep the shoulder square, and we're pushing on the chest. So we teach the guys that if you're feeling like you're getting that pressure on your chest, we want you to hop. Watch his feet. He just kind of flops back. So anyone that's ever wrestled, you know, and they're going for a single leg takedown or a double leg takedown, you're going to shoot your legs back and sprawl your legs out. It's the same idea. And then the other thing is that as we're teaching that, we want to teach guys how to replace their hands correctly. We never want to, you know, if you try to get your hands in there and maybe you get caught and the guy's in your chest and you flopped, you replace one hand at a time. Replace one hand at a time. So here's the two drills. We teach them. Number one, this is kind of like a wax on, wax off kind of drill. Guys just walking backwards and working the upper body portion of it, right? And then as you get into it, you know, you can have two guys kind of work at it. I tend to put the guys like he gets one hand inside and one hand outside, and the defender pushes on him, and he's trying to replace that hand. But he does it one at a time. If you put the offensive guy with both hands on the outside and he's getting pushed, he would either go left and right or right and left. We never want to do both because then that gives the defender the advantage. So it's kind of staying anchored in the ground. So watch his feet. He's flopping. Watch the hands replace. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. All right, and that puts us in a good position. So here's some game film, right? Watch 53 here. All right, now they're talking, right? Okay, this guy's going in, this guy's going out. So 53 kicks out. He's got both hands in his chest. He's got no inside position, but watch his feet. You feel the pressure in his chest. Hop, hop, hop. It's going to keep him off the quarterback. This is as good a drill as anything because this is what defenders are going to do more often than not. They're not that creative on defense. They'll have one move in their head, and when they can't do anything else, they'll bull rush. And if they have nothing else, they'll bull rush. Even blitzing linebackers will run right into you and try to knock you over, even if you're bigger than them. But if you can get low position, you can flop. You get your feet underneath you. You build a buttress for our engineering friends. You know, with your feet behind you, your hands in front of you. You know, with your toes out. It's a pretty strong position. All right. And then the last part is the inside read, right? So we've talked about what happens when they rush up the field on you outside, what happens if they try to go right down your middle. Well, what if they give you an inside move? Now this is a little bit controversial. All right. So what you'd end up getting, right? And I'll try to draw this again. I'm going to use my new toy here. A lot of times people would say, when you get to a position like this, let me see if I can get this here. Oops, sorry. There we go. So I'm just going to try to get him in the spot I want. Boom. Okay, right here. So now most coaches would say, oh, inside move, right? This is how I was taught. Inside move. You've got to move this foot back to the inside, upfield at an angle, and cut him off. Well, it doesn't work that way. That's not what actually happens. You know, what I think is that if you're going to get back in front of a defender, you've got to drop your outside, you got to drop that inside foot, and that's a little controversial. But if you watch how he's doing it here, right? He's going to drop his inside foot, and then he squares him back up. It's the only way that you're going to get back in front of a superior athlete. If you try to go flat, so again, like if we get to this position here, all right, where now the defender is starting to move inside, okay, right here. If you think that your guy is going to be able to cut the guy off here with this guy going full speed here, where he's got an inside helmet position, you're mistaken. He'll get his hip locked. This leg of the defender will get by him, and he's out on the quarterback right now. But if I drop my post back and slide my foot in, I can stay square, and I can get back in front of him. All right, now, that's Tyron Smith. He's the best in the business, right? I'll show you a Division III guy later that's doing it, and it's something that can be done at any level, okay? And it's what happens. So here's the differences between guards and tackles, right? Here's the differences between guards and tackles. Guards play in a hallway or a phone booth, right? You can't say phone booth anymore. You never see them, right? But guards play in a hallway. They got the tackle on one side and they got the center on the other. And they can get a defender and they can bang him against both sides of that most of the time, right? And so there's not a lot of distance to be covered by a guard. Okay, a guard's kind of dealing. That's why he stays on kind of that A 30-degree sets, because he wants to play closer to the line of scrimmage, because he doesn't have to go a long distance, right? Guards are responsible to keep rushers away from the quarterback's face and their feet. So they have to set closer to the line of scrimmage. So a lot of the stuff that they're going to do is faster. It's going to be more two-hand shots. And it's more a process of staying completely in front of the defender and not pushing him one way or the other. Because if you try to push too far to the outside, your shoulder gets turned. It's short distance to the quarterback. If you try to punch an inside move without getting in front of him first, he's running right by you to the quarterback. So more two-hand strikes. Tackles, they play on an island. So they have to defend from their outside shoulder all the way to the sideline. So they're going to deal with more deeper sets, more width out of our tackles. And they're responsible to expand or stretch our pocket, right? We want them to stretch the pocket. They say, oh, they're responsible for the width. Well, we can't collapse the pocket either. We've got to get width, but we've also got to expand it. We don't just want to hold it. We want to expand it if we can. And there's going to be more independent hand usage out of a tackle. All right. He's going to do more with trying to get his hands in position and fight more, because the rushers are going to fight more. They're going to use their hands more. So it just makes sense that guards are going to deal more with the banging and the bull rushing. So they're going to have to use two hands, whereas a tackle is probably going to be able to use independent hands. All right, so guards. So here's the thing here. Guards are going to set nose to nose. And we do that because we want to define the rusher's escape lane. We want to give him a one-way go, that he thinks like, I want to go to the inside. And people have told me that they're uncomfortable with that, because if the guy goes inside, it's the short distance of the quarterback. And my argument is, well, if I get in front of him and I make him rush my full body, I've got more power to bring to the table. But if I also know that I'm potentially giving him some enticement to go inside, I can prepare myself for that, and I can counter that quicker when the guy does go inside. So, I like setting nose to nose. It's been more successful than not. And if you teach it that we're going to get squared up on this guy, we think he might go inside, so we're going to make sure that we're prepared for that. But it really helps define the rush. So if we're setting on a fairly thick 3 technique, I tell the guys, set nose to nose. If the 3 rushes outside or upfield, knock him out. He's defined it. Just knock him out. Keep knocking him out. Because a lot of times when a 3 technique goes wide or goes, kind of wide and upfield, there's usually some sort of twist coming back. That's a whole other conversation, right? But most of the time, if he rushes wide, I'm going to knock him wide. Okay. If he goes into a bull rush, we're going to sprawl and hop, hit him with 2 hands in the chest. That's a chest read for us. And if he goes inside, we're going to drop our post and slide it and get back in front of him. And it's a simplistic way of looking at it, but it's kind of a way for me to give my guards a chance to kind of have a plan and know what they're going to do. So like here are just some drills that I threw on there that Paul had that he had shown me. And, this is just a little feet and hands drill where we're working on getting into position where we can get nose to nose, and we're throwing 2 hands, boom, right? We're just trying to read. The defender's going out, I'm going out. That's just a little short drill to kind of start the process. Then the next part of it is that we want to work feet, then hands. So this guy's kind of setting first. It's kind of a 2 whistle drill or a 2 command drill where I'm giving that to him, and then we're telling the defender when to rush, and then he's getting his hands in the correct position. So it's a little bit broken down. It's not full speed. And then as you get into it, you can see when you're really going. I want you to watch the inside leg of this guard here. You can see how it's going to drop. Then he's going to fight to get back in front. The key thing is to stay square and to fight to get back square. But you can see he's dropping that post. If he tried to go up into the line of scrimmage on this guy, he'd get beat because he'd be behind the rusher. But by losing a little ground and dropping my post back inside, if I don't get squared back up on him, at least if I'm a right-sided lineman, I'm blocking like a left-sided lineman, and I can keep flattening him to the inside and widening him down the line of scrimmage, if that makes sense, right? Or if I'm a right-sided, I'm a left-sided lineman, and the guy goes inside, and I drop my post, and I slide over, and I end up staying in this position here. Hope everyone can see my hands a little bit. And my inside foot now has become kind of the kick foot, and my outside foot's become the post, and I'm just going to work them this way like I was on the right side of the line. But it's the only way to really get back in front of them. And watch the film. Watch the film. You tell me, when a guy goes up for an inside move on a guard, what do the guard's feet do? They're going to drop. So you might as well teach him how to do it, because otherwise he'll drop the foot straight back. He'll turn his shoulders, and the guy's on the quarterback right now. So remember, it's not going straight back. It's dropping back to the inside, almost like a kick step, and it works. So here's my example, right? So this is going to show actually two good things. Actually three. 67 is going to set nose to nose on the 3 technique. All right. The 3 technique's going to go out, so he's going to force him out. And then because this is going longer than a normal pass pro rep, the guy's going to try to come back inside, and you're going to see 67 drop his post to get back in front. Oops. There we go. So he's going to drop to get nose. Now he could be a little bit better at getting all the way over there, but you can see the 3 technique went out, so he knocked him out. Right, he went out. So my hand goes to the logo spot. My inside hand knocks him out. Oh, he's going back inside. See how 67 drops his post? Now that's generally a sin, right? You're not supposed to do that. But if you watch it, this is kind of how it works, right? And this was a freshman lineman. He was a young guy. You know, just teaching him a different thing. Like, he wants the foot to come straight back. We force him to think of it as being back into the inside on an angle. Get back in front of him, cover him up, get square. There you go. He could have finished it better, yada, yada, yada. But in a normal pass protection, there'd be people back there with him. One-on-one pass rush isn't totally realistic. But you can see how the technique works because I taught it to him, right? I told him I wanted him to do that. But in general, linemen will do that. They'll drop their post. Well, teach them how to do it correctly. You're going to have more success than them just pushing people by. So we do the same drill. We do the same drill. The offside rush drill, but now we do it for inside rushes. So if this is the defender, all right, ball's in here, all right, and we put the guys, again, we set them so that they've already kind of set, right? So this one's a little bit easier. We kind of just start them right out on the inside. So we'll tell the defender, same thing. We want him to kind of get inside. So we've already kind of beat him to the inside, and we want to make it tough so that this guy's going to try to go here right now, because the quarterback would be back here. And we tell this guy do the same thing. Now his feet were like this, right? Because he had already kicked, and let's say this guy had already moved over here. So he had already kicked, and his post foot's here. So now he's got to learn how to get that post foot back to the inside and bring this one with him and slide it over so he can get his whole body back in front of this guy. Again, it's just like when we do it with the tackle, you know, where he's dealing with a guy on the outside, he's going to kick here. It's the same idea. You could almost use the bear claw on the inside. And then that way, once you get, if you can't get totally in front of them, we at least want to flatten them to the inside. So again, these are 2 drills that kind of, you're like, coach, you're putting me in a bad position. Yeah, because you're going to be in bad positions in the game. So this offside rush drill for an outside, you know, speed rush, or for an inside move, by training the guys how to do this, you're giving them tools. You're giving them things that that will help them win in a game when they've already lost. All right. Now, in terms of tackles, right? So that's my guard things. I want them to be nose to nose. It's different. We're just defining where we want to make people go, and then give them the tools to kind of be successful. But with tackles, they're going to set knee to crotch. Now, the thing that we really talk to tackles a lot about is what we call lagging, where they're lagging behind a little bit to make sure that they're making the correct read. And you're going to see more independent hand usage by tackles. That's what makes them different, right? The lagging where they set, independent hand usage. So again, we talk about, here's a tackle doing a feet then hands drill. You know, we showed the guards where it was like lining up right in front, you know, getting right in front of them, nose to nose. Here's a tackle kind of working out, and it's kind of a go, set, go kind of drill, right? They're just setting. And then once he's set, we send the rusher at him, and we tell him to either, hey, go outside and around, go right at the chest, or make an inside move. And then that way the guys can kind of train, hey, these are what these things look like when they're happening. So a little feet then hands drill there. But again, here's the same thing, right? He was in practice with the tackle I showed earlier. He takes 2 kicks. He tries to get his hand on the outside because that's his brush move to the outside. He widens them out. So it's just kind of that idea of taking 2 kicks. I think that I'll show you lagging here, and this is kind of really what it's all about, is a lot of times tackles will see this alignment and they automatically think, I got to take 3 or 4 kicks to get out to that guy. Well, 3 or 4 kicks will take you right by the spot. So what I found is that if we teach the guys to take 2 kicks, then figure it out, they're going to be much better off. So I put there, get out of your stance and get to the spot. Never take more than 2 kicks when the defender is still in front of you, right? But when you start to feel like he's going up, that's when you're going to take more kicks. So it's not necessarily stopping, but it's settling, it's pausing. Sometimes it doesn't even look like you're pausing, but you're in your mind, you're like, I'm going to go 2, pause, and then I can keep going. I'm going to take 2 kicks, pause, and then keep going, right? Because there's a rhythm to it. So watch this guy. I think this is BYU. He's going to take 2 kicks, he pauses, he figures it out, right? Takes 2 kicks. Defender's still in front of me, pause, figure it out. Yeah, there's a shoulder read. He kind of takes 1 more kick. Watch here. Shoulder read, 1 more kick. He's on the guy, successful block. All right, now here's the pros, right? Watch 71. Kick, pause, and then go. These rushers are the best athletes on the planet. You know, they're just crazy, sick athletes. But there's an offensive tackle. He's a great athlete too, but watch. 1, 2, lag, then keep going. Right? As long as the defender's in front of you, take 2 kicks and figure it out. You'll have much more success. All right, here it is again. Here's college, right? Watch this guy. 2 kicks, lag, then figure it out. You know, I just think that when we started teaching this to the guys, they had much more success. Get to the spot nice and square, 2 quick kicks, and then figure it out. So you can really work on them being great at taking two quick kicks and just seeing them get there, right? Take 2 quick, get out of your stance, get to the spot. Now you can figure it out because you can see right there, he's fast, then he slows down a little bit. It's a little bit of a thing, right? So those are some things, and I'm going to try to get some cut blocking in here for you too. But certainly, if anyone has any questions, just hit me up on Twitter or email me. I'd be happy to spend more time on it than we have today, because really this could be like all day long talking about this stuff. It's great stuff. But like I said, you know, the things that are a little bit different, just are things that I've learned from watching the game and saying like, you know, I see guys freaking out and taking too many kicks. They got to lag. They got to learn. Okay, I'm only going to teach them to kick twice, and then we'll do drills to figure that out. Or, you know, I want to get my guy in front of this guy so he can have the best chance of blocking him. Well, I got to teach him how to recover on an inside move, because the inside move doesn't happen all the time, but he covers the guy every time. So little things like that, and you know, this will be videoed so you can go back and watch it. But let's try to get through some cut blocking. All right. Because there's more technique that I'm going to be able to cover here in like the next 6 or 7, 9 minutes, whatever it is. All right. The number one thing with cut blocking, because we can cut. At my high school, we can cut. We play by NCAA rules. Cut blocking is the great equalizer. They're trying to legislate it out of football, but you can still cut as an offensive lineman. And where we're going to do most of the cut blocking is going to be on outside zone plays, all right, outside run plays where we're trying to cut down linebackers that are much faster than us. So intent and desire to make the block is the number one thing. You've got to commit to the cut. And the cut blocks have to occur within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. So we know these 2 things. So here's the thing. Number one, great angles of departure, right? You got to run where he's going to be, not where he is, all right? You got to track the defender's play side hip. Outside zone play to the right, I'm tracking the hip that I see to his right, all right? I'm working towards that hip. Not the man, not his inside. I'm not looking at his eyes. I'm tracking his outside hip, play side hip. All right. We want to be able to step on the defender's toes. The key to a good cut block is you got to get right up on him, right? You got to get right up to him before you throw, because if you throw too early, you're in the dirt and you look stupid. All right. You got to make sure you can step on the defender's toes. And then I teach backside shoulder to play side knee. If I can put my backside shoulder on a play side knee, I'm in good shape. If I can even cut him off a little bit and then come back on him, those are the best cut blocks. And then I tell guys, when you throw for the cut block, make sure that you can see the end zone. You know, I always say eyes to the end zone. That just tells them to keep their eyes up, because if you go in for a cut block and you drop your head, you're going to cut the turf and lay it short and then get on a roll. If you can roll up on the guy at the end, it's a little dirty, but it's legal, kind of, but it finishes the block. Okay, so here's just some things. So I'm going to show you some of this stuff. We talk about level 1 cuts and level 2 cuts. So this is actually Army warming up this is Army warming up for a game at Ohio State. They bring the tackle tubes out to cut. They bring bags out to cut. This is their pregame cut. They're doing these cut drills in pregame. That's how committed they are. right? And I think that it's like the greatest thing ever. But you're teaching guys how to get their head across, get that backside shoulder to that play side knee, and to cut guys. Here's another level 1 cut drill. Again, I'm giving you some cut things that you can kind of see the guys doing with drills that you can actually do. This is Kansas. So they're working on a level 1 cut. And again, you're seeing him, he's trying to put that backside shoulder to the play side knee. Watch as he's going here. He's going to get up the field far enough that he can throw his body past. And the best cut blocks, honestly, are where they kind of fall over your ribs because you've gotten so far ahead. But they're teaching the guys how to get on the ground and how to get low, how to get that backside shoulder past the ball so they can cut it. And they rip through and drop the guy down. All right, here's another way to cut it. This is what I call a second level cut drill. So this would be like on an outside play where maybe you've zoned it and you're running up to second level, or you've pulled and you're going up to the second level. All right, here goes pull, and then they got this nice crash mat. If you don't have a crash mat, take some agile dummies and line them up. You can find a way to do it. It just allows the guys to feel like they can get on the ground and it's fun for them. You'll get more out of the drill if they don't feel like they're getting banged up. So I'll let you see the next one here. They're just working that. So now their contact point is the hand shield, and they're trying to rip that hand shield, with their shoulder and their shoulder pad. Kennesaw State, they're kind of putting this into their outside zone methodology. Same idea as Kansas was doing with the ball, but you can see they're trying to work it so they get their backside shoulder to the outside knee. All right, so here's some actual cuts. Let me see if I can find some good ones for you here. All right, so this is pretty good. This is Kaiser University down in Florida. They do a great job with it. But you can see he's running to where he wants to be. He's making sure that he's far enough upfield. All right, and watch here. He's making sure he can step on the defender's toes, taking a good angle of departure. He's getting upfield, and now he's going to put that outside shoulder on that backside shoulder on that play side knee, and he's going to put the guy on the ground. Here's a backside tackle. Working the number 13 there. He's using a skip technique. That's pretty good. But he's running for where he's going to be, and then he's going to come in there, put that backside shoulder onto the guy's knee. All right, so it's intent. It's intent. Here he is again. Now he kind of works back. I'm going to chop this guy down. All right. Here's a level 2 cut off of a pull. These are my guys from a couple of years ago, my center. Center's going to pull. He's going to cut number 22. He's going to pull. He's going to put that backside shoulder on that play side knee. But the key aspect to the whole thing is that they've got the intention to do it, and they're going to make sure they're close enough to the guy to cut him, right? You don't want to feel like you're looking at the guy's knees when you throw. You want to be still kind of looking up a little bit. He's still high here, but then he drops it down low. The best cut blocks are the ones where you come in high a little bit and then you really drop it down. Let's see, this one's a pretty good one, I think. All right, here's a level 2 cut. That's from a few years ago. Guard off of a zone block. Boom. All right, putting that backside shoulder to the play side knee. All right, and then making sure that he's close enough to the guy so that he can cut him. You can see the guy almost tried to jump him. And then here's an example of a guy rolling. Watch the end of this one. He's going to roll up onto the defender's legs. Like I said, a little dirty, but legal. Right there, he just keeps rolling. So a defender that defends you pretty well. I mean, 47 does a good job here defending it, right? A little bit. He's trying to get up. He can't get up because the big tackle here has decided to roll him. Right? Cut him, then just roll. And maybe it's a hold, but it's good stuff. But I hope that helps. I think I was right up on my hour. I'm going to try to unshare my screen. Stop share right there. And like I said, if you guys need anything, Coach's video is recording this, and certainly it'll have my contact information. You can always hit me up through Twitter, DM me on Twitter. But I'm more than happy to talk football with anybody, and love talking to guys from around the world. And thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Coach, thank you very much for your very detailed talk. Like the first time for everyone, I dropped the first talk from Coach Wells into the chat box, so you can look it up at YouTube. I will upload this talk to YouTube, and thank you very much. I don't want to want you to stay longer here because you have the next meeting, and just want to thank you for the time and for the amazing input you gave us today.
Yeah, and we can always set up another thing to do some run blocking stuff, or talking about that kind of thing. But yeah, I gotta go do the other part of my job that allows me to do the coaching part of my job.
Yeah, that's right. So thank you very much, Coach. Have a nice day.
All right, Coach, I'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye.
All right.